Hey all my DeviantArt and Photoshop friends, welcome to the most grueling edit of my life, made with daisies. So, as you can see here, I've started this image out already selected and ready to go. And what I've done is I went up and used select and chose color range and picked out the background, all the whites. So what I'm doing is just kind of cleaning up that selection, and I have this kind of in fast mode so that I can now select a gradient, and now I'm going to pick a sky color, and I've already got white for my background, so this should work fairly well. And if you haven't guessed already, I am going to make a sky. And there we go. Got a nice sky background. And now I'm going to reverse the selection and select myself in the foreground. And as you can see, I'm starting to adjust that. One of the most difficult parts of this image, as you may have seen right from the start, is that this image is backlit and the foreground is not very well lit at all. But I saw some potential in this image, so I wanted to push it really hard. So my biggest fight in this image is going to be trying to get my body to look a little more contrasted and a part of the image. Right now I'm really washed out, and it's going to be very difficult for people to believe that I'm a part of this image. So the main thing I'm going to be fighting off is the neutrals. And see, we're in here with selective color. I'm trying to kind of work my skin tones a little bit to lighten things up a bit so I can get in there and start working it. So as you can see, really washed out colors. So I'm going to be going in and making some facial enhancements in the contrast, using a little bit of a dodge to kind of dodge out some of those mid-tones and bring in a little more color. Same thing on my skin. In this edit, you're actually going to see me make a lot of mistakes that I wouldn't make these days. I did this edit about 3 months ago, and now I'm actually putting the vocals over, so it's kind of embarrassing watching it because I made some mistakes that I really wouldn't do these days. And I'll actually show you some of those mistakes are going to come when I get to the hair in this image, and a couple are when I'm working around the body with the background with dodge and burn tools, which I've found much better methods for doing that kind of stuff now. So as you can see, working the eyebrows, kind of bringing in a little more color and thus contrast, and working also with the eyes in this section to try and make my facial features pop a little more. Sometimes you don't need to work all of every feature on a body, but just find points of focus to try and bring in and out of this soft looking lighting. And once you can do that, then the image itself will start to look a little sharper. So most of the time I just use my dodge and burn tools when working with basic makeup, but occasionally, and I don't do this in this particular edit, I will go in with the brush tool and add some color that isn't already there. There we go, sharpening up the eyes. Trying to fight this very faded, washed out look. This is going to be a really long edit. It's about 23 minutes long. When I actually did the editing of this image, it was about 45 minutes long, so I've cut out a lot of me time just kind of sitting there going, you know, what am I going to do with this image? So you guys are seeing what actually ended up in the finalized version of the image. I could have added about 20 more minutes towards the end, and I'll tell you guys about that when we get there. There we go. Add a little contrast to my lips to kind of pop them out a little more. And this is going to be nice for when I start pushing the skin tones a little bit to lighten them up and make them feel a little more realistic in this image. So far for our background and foreground, we've got a really sunny look, so I just have to push that onto my body as well. So you're going to see a lot of dodge and burn tool in this process as I try and pull in my lights and darks and push out my midtones. And do it in such a way that I'm not losing something from the image. So there you go. You can start to see a little more contrast on the face with the eyes and the lips. The hair is starting to look a little better against the skin tones, which I've been lightening up, and the dress, which I've been shadowing. Now you can see me kind of getting rid of these little bits of light behind me and on the tree where the gradient I used didn't quite catch completely over. Just trying to get rid of those bright spots to make it a little more realistic that I'm better lit in the front. And I'm using the stamp tool for that. Just taking surrounding color and using it to fix those spots. See, I've definitely made some mistakes in this image to come, so once we get there I'm going to point them out because I don't want you guys to do the same thing. For the untrained eye, mistakes can slide by, but when you live and work with a community of photographers, it's kind of embarrassing when you make mistakes, especially in a walkthrough. So with this image, to try and kind of make me pop from the background a little more, I am going to be doing some color, as you see here, in my hair. And this was a pain in the butt process in this edit, but I have since learned some techniques that make it Very efficient, very easy, and very mistake free. And I will be showing you guys those in tutorials to come quite soon. Oh, you see there, right near my ear, I accidentally popped a little color off onto the background, and that did not get fixed. Embarrassed. So be careful, and one tool you can use to fix little problems like that is your history brush, which I did not use at the time because I was moving a little too fast and didn't catch that little blip. So now I'm going back over with my dodge and burn tools again to add some contrast to that hair, because once you add color over something, it tends to neutralize your contrast. And you want to bring that back out. You know, I probably say contrast about 40 times a tutorial. Gotta find myself some new words. So there we go. Pumping in my blacks and whites. That way the hair looks a little more realistic, and we definitely want to make things a little more contrasty. While I did make some mistakes with this image, I am fairly happy with how it turned out. I mean, it was a pretty intense shift, and I got fairly close to what I was looking for. Taking a really neutral image with some poor lighting situations and really making it a pop style piece. So I just whitened my eyes out just a little bit. I mean, you don't usually do this with all images, but when you're fighting so much neutral color, especially on facial features, it can help. So adding a little light around the top, and as you can see, another mistake, you can totally see my dodge marks moving off the side, and I will attempt to fix those later, but I did not use the best method for it, and I know much better methods now that involve, again, your history brush, or if you prefer to do it with layers, use layers. Often what people do is they will use layers and the erase tool, or my method now is I draw right over my image, and then I go back through with my history brush and I just work it spot by spot. There's a lot more safety in layers though. Now lightening up my legs a little bit to match the upper sections of the body. Again, you can see those highlights around my body. That was a big mistake. I should have fixed those right off the bat. So dodging out spots, and now I'm going to go through with my healing brush and get rid of those scars around my ankles. I'm really fond of the content aware history brush. I think it came along with CS5, maybe it was 4. But it is an excellent tool because it takes data from around the image, including patterns, and will replicate them. So now you see I just went in with selective color and I noticed a lot of kind of reddish pattern on my legs, and I smoothed that out by reducing reds. And that's a technique I use a lot, especially when fighting facial blemishes, is you can decrease your reds just a tad. You have to be careful about your lips though, and you could also use the history brush on your lips afterwards to remove red from your skin or blemishes. So going in and putting slight highlights on the shoes to kind of make them match up with the rest of the image's brightness. As you can see, we've made quite a bit of progress now. Starting to match the background and the foreground a little bit better. So now you can see me going in and using my dodge and burn tool to repair those bright spots. This is because I did not notice them right off the bat, and I lost them in my history bar. One thing you can do is, I find it good to have at least 100 history spots available so that I can go back 100 motions. Having 10 tends to not be enough. So now I've done a rotate and crop on the image to kind of make the grass, which I kind of wanted to be nice and straight in the foreground, line up better. Pull a little bit of the foreground and the background out. I still kind of like having that crop center with me slightly off to the side, kind of follows the rules of thirds. So now I'm playing with general tones in the image, and the yellows with selective color. Messing with the grass in the foreground. So when you're dealing with images like this, when I use my dodge and burn tools, I very frequently have them quite low, usually no higher than 10 in the opacity, because it gives you a lot more control on how much color you're putting down at once, and you can make much more subtle changes when you have control. They're just finding a couple little spots that are left over around my hair that are a little too bright in my shoulder. So now I'm adding a vignette around the upper edge of the image in the sky to kind of center the lighting on myself. And selective color again. Just trying to bring down the brightness just a little bit and on myself in the foreground, and yellow controls that very well because there's yellow in the greens and there's also yellow in my skin. And there we go. Now I'm looking at this shoulder and it looks kind of hot to me. So you're going to see me go in there and use my sponge tool to desaturate some of that color. It kind of helps pull attention away from that hot spot on my shoulder. And there we go, we're getting very close to the end of this. But you're going to see one more thing, and this took me about 20 minutes because of those rotations I made in the image when I was cropping. This is the second version of this edit I did. I did another one from scratch, and I kind of liked both of them, and I decided I kind of wanted to take both of them and combine them together, and you're going to see those images in a little bit. And so the image that is on DeviantArt now is a combination of this image and another one. But that rotation and matching the images back up to each other was very difficult. It took about 20 minutes. So you're just going to see the two images I combined. So just doing some last color touch-ups here. Last little highlights. And there we are. These are the two images I combined for the final result, which is the image you see here. There you are. I hope that helped, and that was probably one of the most lengthy edits I will ever do.